Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the worship service of the Unitarian Universalist Church of the Monterey Peninsula. My name is Corey Brunson, and I currently help out with the Committee on Family Ministry and the Worship Associates team. Whoever you are, wherever you are in your life's journey, you are welcome here. We acknowledge and honor that we gather on land sacred to the Ohlone, Esalen, Rumsen, Mutsun, Salinan, Indigenous peoples, and First Nations. We recognize the need to continue the work to reconcile and repair the harms of oppression and colonization. If you are a visitor today, we invite you to raise your hand so that we may see, hey, hello, welcome. Yay. We encourage you also to fill out a yellow card, a visitor card, which are out in the welcome hall, so you can start getting all of our newsletters and such. If you are a Zoom visitor, please fill out our virtual visitor card, and you are also welcome to introduce yourself in the chat. This month's worship theme is resistance. Today's service is entitled, Resistance is Futile, or Is It? And it is led by Reverend Elaine Gehrman and Worship Associate Ann Jacobson. Our greeters this morning are Angela Scarrett and Carol Greenstreet. Our ushers are Daryl Scarrett and Martin Scarrett. Many Scarretts today. A special welcome goes to our guest musician, Logan Thorstensen, and we thank all of you. There he is. We thank all of you for your contributions to today's service. Please be sure while you're here to view our new artists exhibition in the Welcome Hall, as we're welcoming Cheryl Camp as our UUCMP guest artist beginning today and running through May 26. Her exhibit of oil and cold wax on canvas is entitled Tapestry. If you have not turned in your pledge card for the 2023-2024 Operating Fund canvas, please do so right away. Or you can pledge online. We are grateful to each and every one of you for your support of this church. Starting today, the Environmental Justice Committee will be collecting batteries for recycling every Sunday. So look for 2 collection boxes. I didn't see where they are exactly, but there'll be a separate box for the lithium ion batteries and one for all the other batteries, and they are labeled. Oh, they're right out there by that door somewhere. There they are. So bring your batteries. You are invited also to attend our first Friday game night, which happens every month, but is happening this week, Friday, April 7 at 6:30 in the fireplace room down the hall here. You can join our co-ministers. There's an enthusiastic game player right there. You can join our co-ministers and acting DRE Sharon Ruth for snacks and laughter and lots of games. There will be a memorial service held here for Bill Anderson on Saturday, April 15 at 2 p.m. Please sign up on the Caring Network table in the Welcome Hall today if you can bring refreshments or help with setup or serving that day, or you can directly contact either Carol Collin or Mibs McCarthy to find out how you can help. Also, it's a long list. We encourage you to sign up to be a mystery buddy. This is a brand new thing, an intergenerational program for children and youth and adults to get matched up in mystery buddy pairs. And the goal here is for you to get to know somebody new, get to know a little bit more about each other every week leading up to May 21, when your identities will be revealed. And so it's just a fun thing, and it's a way to connect with some of the kids in the RE program, and encourage you to get involved. You can either check out there at the RE table today for more information or talk to Sharon Ruth, the acting DRE. More details, if you need them, can be found on all these items in the weekly e-newsletter or on our website. Whew, we made it. This month's shared offering recipient is Community Human Services of Monterey County. So let's welcome Robin McCray, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Community Human Services, who will tell us about her organization.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Robin. I'd like to thank Connie for extending this invitation to me today, and also thank all of you for this warm welcome. I have just 3 minutes, I've been told, so I'm going to go ahead and start, and we can go ahead and start the slideshow. So I'm representing Community Human Services today, and I'm going to talk a little bit about our organization so you have a context for my talk about Schumann Heart House, a new program we're developing. Next slide. So the mission of Community Human Services is to provide mental health, substance abuse, and homeless services to individuals in Monterey County to help them reach their full potential. And our vision is a community that's free of substance abuse, mental health issues, and housing insecurity. We were established in 1969 as a little nonprofit organization by Lawrence Lionheart. He's still around today and still supportive of the agency. The group he was working with was concerned about kids using drugs in the late 60s and early 70s, and the grand jury found that nothing was being done in Monterey County. No coordinated effort was happening. So in response to that report, the cities and school districts on the peninsula adopted this little organization and formed a joint powers agency. And today we're both a nonprofit and a JPA with the scope of services or authority to provide the services that we provide. We merged with Family Service Agency of Monterey County in 2002, forming one agency to serve families and youth in Monterey County. And we celebrated our 50th anniversary in 2019. So we've kind of seen changes over the years and responded to those changes. And we opened a shelter in Seaside in 2019. And what we'd like to do as Schumann Heart House is duplicate the successes that we're seeing at Casa de Noche Buena by opening a shelter for women and families with children in Monterey. So next slide, please. So that shelter will be called Schumann Heart House, and it's named after Mark Schumann and his family, Carmel residents who really had a passion for serving the community and for addressing the needs of homeless women and families with children. So they donated $3 million for us to purchase a building on Franklin Street in Monterey. Our job is to raise the money to rehabilitate the property, mostly renovations so that it's suitable for use as a shelter, and then to raise the annual operating income for that program. So it should open this summer. Next slide. So Schumann will be a low barrier emergency shelter. By that I mean there's no requirements for entry as long as you meet the eligibility criteria of being a single woman or a family with children. So you don't have to be clean and sober. You don't have to have a certain amount of income. You don't even have to agree to participate in services. That's our job, to welcome you, to make you safe, help you stabilize, and then offer services and encourage your participation in those services. It's going to be a 90-day length of stay. This is exactly what we do at Casa de Noche Buena already. So again, we're duplicating. That stay can be extended for up to 6 months if people are making progress. And we provide a whole host of case management services focused on housing navigation and making a successful exit to permanent housing. Everything's provided: meals, laundry service, not service, but laundry, access to laundry facilities, internet, computers for employment searches and things of that nature. The guests are assigned a room for the duration, so they don't have to pick their belongings up every morning and leave and come back and wait in line. Women will have their own private carrel, and families will have their own family bedroom. So the capacity will be 35, depending on the size of the family and the ages of the children. Next slide. This is what it looks like today. I don't know if you're familiar with 600 East Franklin. It was the Arthur Murray Dance Studio. It's the old Union Ice Factory. So it's a beautiful kind of white adobe looking red tile roof building. It is a historic property, so we're being very careful in our renovations. Most of them actually are inside, so there's less to be concerned about in altering the historic structure. You can see where kitchen and family bathrooms are being added, and a multi-purpose dining room is being created. Next slide. And then the women's bedrooms. This is a high ceiling building, so the carrels, I think, are 8 feet tall. So there won't be a roof on them, but they will have their own private carrel, which is important to the women. At Casa, they have a shared bedroom, 2 to a room, and that does create challenges sometimes in matching people, and some people who really prefer not to have a roommate at all. And then there'll be case manager offices and family bedrooms as well. And as I said, the case managers will work on employment, income, education, but the focus will be on housing and housing navigation. Next slide, please. So here's where we are today. We've raised 6.7 of 7.8 million. This is for renovations and the first 2 years of operating expenses. Our board thought we should raise 2 years, not 1 year, so we don't. So we give ourselves time to continue to raise. It's going to be kind of a big amount to raise every year. And we didn't want to hire staff with the uncertainty of not knowing what's going to happen the next July 1. So we are just 1.1 million shy of our goal, and we're on track to open August 1st. It had been July 1st, but with rain and storms, power outages, we're about a month behind. So I don't know if there's time for question and answers, but I'm going to be staying for the whole service, and I'll be available after if anyone wants to talk to me. And there are some things on the table in the back. But thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Now I invite those of you here in the sanctuary to turn and wave at that camera, the people on Zoom. Hi. All right, and now take a few moments to greet the people seated around you.
It's fussy.
As we enter into our spirit of contemplation and worship, we ask you please hold any applause until the end of our service. And I know it'll be hard, but we can do our jazz hands. Please enjoy our beautiful prelude.
When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high, and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of the storm is a golden sky, and the sweet silver song of a lark. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, though your dreams be tossed and blown. Walk on with hope in your heart, and you'll Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Logan. That was beautiful. For our call to worship this morning, we have words generated by the artificial intelligence software ChatGPT. As a Unitarian Universalist community, we gather today to honor the interconnected web of existence of which we are all a part. We come together in the spirit of curiosity, compassion, and commitment to justice. We recognize that our lives are shaped by forces beyond our control, and that resistance to these forces can often be futile. But in the face of this truth, we choose to resist anyway. We choose to stand up against injustice, to speak out for the voiceless, and to build a world that reflects our deepest values. So let us gather our courage and our determination as we lift up our hearts and our voices in worship. May we find strength in our collective resistance as we work together to create a more just and loving world. Come, let us worship together. We're so predictable. In a good way. Please rise and body your spirit for our gathering song, our new gathering song this month, We Are Rising Up.
Alrighty, good morning. So I'm going to sing, there's 4 little phrases. I'll sing the first phrase, and then you'll repeat back, and we'll take all 4 phrases before we sing through the 3 verses, okay? So here is our first phrase. We've got, we are rising up today. Ready, and we are rising up today. 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 Rising for our lives. Rising for our lives. Nice. Now let's try that entire first verse, starting with, we are rising. Ready, and we are rising up today. We are rising up today. We are rising up today. Rising for our lives. Wonderful. All right, now let's go ahead and try this from the top. We are rising up today. We are rising up today. We are rising up today. Rising for our lives. We're going to justice in the world. Justice in the world today. Justice in the world today. Justice in the world today. Justice for marching in. We are marching on today. We are marching on today. We are marching on today. Marching for our lives. Wonderful, thank you.
With Unitarian Universalists around the world, we light our chalice, a symbol of our faith and our covenanted aspirations of love, hope, and justice. I'll begin, and then please join in the response as Kayla lights the flame this morning. We gather together as a community of memory and hope to celebrate life and its infinite possibilities for love. We light this chalice as a symbol of the light within every human heart. May our individual sparks meet and merge, bringing both light and warmth to the world. Thank you, Kayla. And now, please enjoy this morning's story for all ages. Our story for all ages today is Marisol McDonald Doesn't Match by Monica Brown with pictures by Sarah Palacios. My name is Marisol McDonald and I don't match. At least that's what everyone tells me. I play soccer with my cousin Tato and he says, Marisol, your skin is brown like mine, but your hair is the color of carrots. You don't match. Actually, my hair is the color of fire, I say, and kick the ball over Tato's head and into the goal. My brother says, Marisol, those pants don't match that shirt, they clash. But I love green polka dots and purple stripes. I think they go great together, don't you? I also love peanut butter and jelly burritos and speaking Spanish, English, and sometimes both. Can I have a puppy, a furry, sweet perrito? I ask my parents. Por favor. Quizás, Mommy says. Maybe, Dad says, smiling and winking. My teacher, Ms. Apple, doesn't like the way I sign my name. Marisol McDonald, she says, this doesn't match. At school, we learn to print and use cursive, but not at the same time. But I like the way Marisol McDonald looks. At recess, Ollie and Emma want to play pirates, and Noah wants to play soccer. How about soccer playing pirates, I suggest. No way, they say, so I run off to play on the swings by myself. After recess, we have art, my favorite subject. I think my drawings surprise my friends. At lunch, Ollie walks over to me and scrunches his nose. A peanut butter and jelly burrito, he asks. I know, I say, it doesn't match, but it sure tastes good. Marisol, you couldn't match if you wanted to, Ollie says. Oh yeah? I bet I can. The next day I wake up and decide that today I, Marisol McDonald, will match. It's a little hard to find clothes that are all the same color. I play pirates with Ollie at recess, but it's not very fun. Why can't pirates play soccer anyway? I have a regular peanut butter and jelly sandwich at lunch, and the bread tastes mushy. Even art class is a little bit boring. Marisol, Ms. Apple says, what's wrong? This doesn't look like your usual work. I'm trying to match, I say with a frown. Why? Asks Ms. Apple. I can't think of a single good reason. At the end of the day, Ms. Apple hands me a note. I open it, and it says, Marisol, I want you to know that I like you just the way you are, because the Marisol McDonald that I know is a creative, unique, bilingual, Peruvian, Scottish American, soccer playing artist, and simply marvelous. Ms. Tamiko Apple. I skip all the way home. When I wake up on Saturday, I put on my pink shirt, my polka dot skirt, and my favorite hat, the one my abuelita brought me from Peru. At breakfast, I say, my name is Marisol McDonald, and I don't match because I don't want to. Bravo, says Mommy. Good for you, says Dad. Now let's go to the pound and get a puppy. When we get to the pound, there are big dogs and little dogs. There are dogs with long noses and dogs with smushed faces. There are chocolate-colored puppies and smoky gray puppies and puppies the color of caramel. How will I ever choose? Then I see him. He has one floppy ear and one pointy ear, one blue eye and one brown eye. He is beautiful. I walk over and he leaps into my lap. I cuddle him and it sounds like he purrs. I think we found just the right dog for you, Marisol, Mommy says. My puppy is perfect. He's mismatched and simply marvelous. just like me. I think I'll name him Kitty. The end. Now, please join in our song of parting as the children and youth follow their teachers off to their classes.
Captain's log, stardate March 10th, 2023. Location, Monterey, California, planet Earth. Here we go again. Yet another night of windy storms, and our power is out for probably the 4th time in recent months. How tiresome. I went to bed last night, hopeful that I'd wake up in the morning with power restored and my plans intact. But it's not to be. Not only do we not have power when I awake, but our internet service is down, and we barely even have cell service. SOS only, or no service, it says. I resist the obvious, compulsively trying to look at my weather app, access my online subscription to the Herald for today's news and the New York Times for today's Wordle, to send texts, retrieve emails, and so on. Perched anxiously by my phone to monitor the intermittent 1 bar of service that's fleetingly available. How will I participate in the online yoga class that I eagerly look forward to every Friday morning? How will I contact the friends scheduled to come over to my house today to postpone our plans? How will I do my daily online live exercise routine? How will I pay the bills and do the other online tasks that I had planned for this day? I can't even walk because it's rainy and windy and dangerously unsafe because trees are randomly falling in our neighborhood. How will I? How will I? How will I? I'm so resistant to what this day promises to bring. I'm resistant to the suspension of my plans and to the disruption to my carefully crafted, comfortable routine. I'm resistant to the unwelcome forced isolation, so reminiscent of the darkest days of COVID lockdown. Then it hits me. Resistance to what this day will bring is futile. I should stop compulsively looking for that weak 1 bar of service and hopefully listening for the dinging of incoming communications, and instead enjoy this unexpected gift of unstructured time alone, safe in my house. I don't need to succumb to the pull of technology. So I rethink my day. I'm going to relish the unexpected time to tidy up the house, to work out spontaneously as my body desires in the moment. Maybe I'll dance. I'm going to do things that I often yearn to, but don't make time for. Read a novel by the light of the window. Sit quietly with my eyes shut, listening to that rare gift of rain. Chant and play my harmonium, not because I have to prepare for something, but because I want to linger in the moment. With relief, I let go of the habitual pull of my phone and its tether to constant connection. I turn it off and I put it aside. I'm excited, anticipating this day that letting go of resistance to the lack of electricity and the internet and resistance to the constant pull of technology will bring me. Captain's log, stardate March 11th, 2023. To be honest, I found it more challenging than I expected to resist compulsively checking my iPhone and my other devices. But I also got glimpses into the increased focus and joy that regularly practicing this resistance could have in my life. And now I also have a heightened awareness of how much time I waste being tethered to my technology. I'm hopeful that I've strengthened my resistance muscles to more creatively, spontaneously, and richly live my life going forward. And now, please rise in body or spirit as we sing hymn number 90, From All the Fret and Fever of the Day.
From all the fret and fever of the day, let there be moments when we turn away, and deaf to all confusing outer din, intently listening for the voice within. In quietness and solitude we find the soundless wisdom of the deeper mind. With clear harmonious purpose, let us then bring richer meaning to the world again.
This is the time we set aside each week to pause for a few moments, take a few deep breaths, and think about what's been happening in our lives this week. What's been happening in the world? What's been happening in the lives of the people we love and care about, whether they're close by or far away? Please keep Carol Collin in your thoughts as she's at home recovering from a fall. And please make sure to sign a card for her after the service at the Caring Network table. We each bring our own joys and sorrows with us this morning, which are on our minds and in our hearts. We invite any of you so moved to come forward and drop a pebble representing your individual joys or sorrow into our shared waters of love and support. And if you're joining on Zoom, you can write your joy or concern in the chat. Thanks. For our spoken meditation this morning, we have words by Reverend Julie Taylor. After this spoken meditation, we'll have a few moments of silence. Please join me now in the spirit of prayer and meditation. Love looks different. Love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it is proud, not proud. Love bears all things. We know these words, use these words when we refer to one person loving another. Love looks different when we relate to systems. Love looks different in the face of injustice. It is then that love is resistant. Love is defiant. It is not backing down. It is staying in the streets. Love is holding each other and ourselves accountable. Love is challenging because none of us is free until all of us are free. Love is protest. Protest is love. Love bears all things. This now is the time for a morning offering. On behalf of the congregation, mindful of our responsibility to use your gifts wisely, we thank you for your generosity. To support our church, please write a check or use the donate button on the website. We also invite you to contribute to our shared offering recipient this month, Community Human Services. All the cash donations and checks so designated will support their work. And now please enjoy our offertory music. Thank you, Logan. It was beautiful. As our ushers come forward, please join in our sung response.
Our first reading is a poem by Lynn Unger, written March 20th, 2020, which you might remember was at the very beginning of the first pandemic lockdown. Imagine with me for a moment. Don't worry, I'm not saying it's real. Imagine, if you can, that there has been not a calamity, but a great awakening. Pretend, just for a moment, that we all so loved our threatened Earth that we stopped going on cruises, limited international flights, worked on cherishing the places where we already are. In this pretty fantasy, everyone who possibly can stops commuting, spends the extra time with their kids or pets or garden. We have the revelation that everyone needs health care, sick leave, steady work. It occurs to us that healthcare workers are heroes, also teachers. Not to mention the artists of all kinds who teach us resilience and joy. Imagine, if you will, that we turned to our neighbors in mutual aid, trading eggs for milk, checking in on those who are elderly or alone. Imagine that each of us felt suddenly called to wonder, in this moment, what does the world need from me? What are my gifts? Yes, I know it's just a fantasy. The world could never change so radically overnight. But imagine.
Our second and final reading is one of my favorites. It's by Annie Dillard. It's from her book, Holy the Firm. She writes, "Who shall ascend into the hill of the Lord, or who shall stand in his holy place? There is no one but us. There is no one to send, nor a clean hand, nor a pure heart on the face of the earth, nor in the earth, but only us. A generation comforting ourselves with the notion that we have come at an awkward time, that our innocent fathers are all dead, as if innocence had ever been. But there is no one but us. There never has been. There have been generations which have remembered and generations which forgot. There has never been a generation of whole men and women who lived well for even one day. Yet some have imagined well, with honesty and art, the detail of such a life, and have described it with such grace that we mistake vision for history, dream for description, and fancy that life has devolved." When I was 10 years old, my father sat my sister and me down, and with my mother weeping in the background, told us he was leaving. I remember yelling and crying and getting up and running across the room to the front door, spreading my arms and legs across the door frame to try to keep him from leaving. Of course, he left out the back door. Resistance in this case was futile. This was one of the more notable instances in a series of childhood realizations that there is much that happens in this world, and often to us or those we love, that is beyond our control to change, to fix, to alter. Parents leave. Pets die. Friends betray. Bombs fall. Dreams fade. And yet, some parents stay. New parents appear. New pets come into our lives. Better friends can be made. Peace can be negotiated. And there are always new dreams to be born. What's the truth? Is the glass half empty or half full? What makes the difference? Are we doomed or can we save ourselves? What must we accept and what can we change? Is resistance futile? All right, so as many of you know, Axel and I are big Star Trek fans. This science fiction series has done such an incredible job over the years at both predicting the future and holding up a mirror to our society and presenting alternate views of where we might be headed, the possibilities and the perils. So one such Star Trek storyline involves the Borg, a race of robotic beings who originated in the Delta Quadrant and traveled throughout the galaxy, absorbing other life forms. So following the principle that it takes one to know one, I asked the artificial intelligence software ChatGPT to describe the Borg. It said, "The Borg is a fictional alien race in the Star Trek franchise. They are portrayed as a collective of cybernetically enhanced beings who operate as a hive mind with no individuality or personal identity. The Borg seek to assimilate other species into their collective, believing that this is the only way to achieve perfection. When encountering resistance from other species, the Borg often say, 'Resistance is futile,' as a warning that they will be assimilated regardless of their efforts to resist. They spread as the Borg Collective throughout the galaxy, aiming to create a perfect race and bring order to the chaos of the galactic population by transforming everyone into drones of the collective. The Borg look like humanoid industrial robots and often travel through space in a ship shaped like a large cube. Borg ship. So there are a number of different Star Trek episodes featuring the Borg. In one episode, our hero, Captain of the Starship Enterprise, Jean-Luc Picard, is kidnapped by the Borg. They give him cybernetic implants to assimilate him and create the evil Locutus, a cybernetic being who has Picard's tremendous knowledge of the Federation's technology and defensive capabilities. The Borg use Captain Picard's knowledge to launch an apparently unstoppable attack on Earth. Against seemingly hopeless odds, the Enterprise crew figures out how to exploit the Borg's weakness. Their total interdependence and dependence on a technology consisting of subroutines and programs instead of procedures capable of being checked by individual minds. They are defeated by the equivalent of a computer virus that spreads throughout their collective consciousness and shuts them down. In another well-known episode, the Enterprise recovers a seriously injured Borg individual from a wrecked spacecraft and nurses him back to health. At first, he seems terrified at being isolated and separated from the rest of the Borg collective, but slowly he acquires a sense of his own personhood and embraces being given his own name, Hugh. Captain Picard considers sending him back with another virus to destroy the Borg collective, but rejects the idea as genocide. But Hugh ended up being infected with something even more insidious and effective, the subversive concept of individuality and his own humanity. Who or what might be our Borg? Who or what is trying to assimilate us, to convert us, to convince us that resistance is futile? On a personal level, as Anne shared in her reflection, it sometimes feels like our phones and the internet are keeping us tethered, dependent, reliant on our connection to that large mothership of the World Wide Web. On a larger scale, the Borg remind me of the practice of cultural imperialism, colonization, practiced by so many Western civilizations throughout history. I don't know if you heard, but on Thursday, the Pope formally repudiated the doctrine of discovery. The doctrine of discovery was a legal concept based on 15th century papal documents, which basically said that ownership and sovereignty over land passed to Europeans because they discovered it. European colonial powers used this doctrine to legitimize the seizure and exploitation of indigenous lands in Africa and the Americas, among other places. This pretty momentous decision by the Pope to finally repudiate this doctrine of discovery comes after decades, not centuries, of demands from indigenous people to rescind this doctrine. The doctrine of discovery had worked in effect like the Borg, with its aims of conquest and domination and assimilation. Over the course of the last 5 centuries, it effectively shaped the entire Western world, destroying many lives and cultures in its wake. And now, after years and years, many repeated acts of resistance have finally made at least a small difference. There are many other forces today in our world that are threatening the dignity and humanity of individuals and cultures and the preciousness of our planet, and trying to convince us that resistance is futile. The horrific number of mass shootings, the assault on reproductive rights, the terrifying number of anti-LGBT laws being proposed across the country, as well as new oil drilling, chemical spills, continual reports of police brutality. It can feel overwhelming and impossible to change. It's enough some days to make me want to stay in bed under the covers, weeping. And yet, deep down, I don't believe resistance is futile. If anything, deep down, I believe it is crucial. It is the only thing that will save us, will save our loved ones, our fellow inhabitants of our planet Earth. What is resistance? Caitlin Curtis, in her new book, Living Resistance, an Indigenous Vision for Seeking Wholeness Every Day, says, the scientific term resistance refers to a force, such as friction, that operates opposite the direction of a motion of a body and tends to prevent or slow down the body's motion. She says, I'd like us to understand resistance as the way we use our everyday lives to exert energy against the dangerous status quo of our time. And she says, resistance cannot only be about what we are against. When we choose to resist something or someone, we're also choosing something else on the other side. Perhaps we're choosing ourselves. Perhaps we're choosing an inclusive love or a more just society. We resist because we know there is a better way. This is the way resistance works. We must both find and create that better way together. Resisting in the face of overwhelming odds is an act of courage. It's probably no coincidence that in these unprecedented times of global crisis, from the pandemic to global warming to war and oppression, The rise of superhero movies is an indication that we feel we need heroes with superhuman abilities to resist these intimidating forces. But as Annie Dillard reminds us in our second reading, there is no one but us. There never has been. It sometimes seems when reading history that larger than life humans with superhuman willpower, courage, or strength have stood up to the forces of oppression and dehumanization. But they were just like us, insecure, afraid, self-doubting, uncertain. And yet somehow they found the power to speak up, to show up, to act up. They imagined well and were willing to work towards creating that better imagined world, each in their own way. Lynn Unger asks us to imagine a new great awakening. Activist Adrienne Marie Brown says we should always be cultivating the muscle of radical imagination needed to dream beyond fear. Patrisse Cullors, one of the founders of the Black Lives Matter movement, says, "We practice building our imagination because so much work of building a new future depends on it. Our imagination provides a new pathway toward building out what is possible. Imagining is not just closing your eyes to escape what is presently happening." She says, "The kind of imagining I'm calling for is active, involved, and creative. We have to reroute what we are, and what we see." In the 1960s, during the Vietnam War, pastor and pacifist A.J. Must, who was in his 80s at the time, spent many nights standing in front of the White House holding a candle, protesting the Vietnam War. One night, a reporter interviewed him as he stood there in the rain and asked him, "Do you really think you're going to change the policies of this country by standing out here alone at night with a candle?" Reverend Must replied softly, "Oh, I don't do this to change the country. I do this so the country won't change me." Several decades later, folk singer, activist, and Unitarian Universalist Pete Seeger was asked if he really thought he could change things, much less the world, by standing on the side of a road, holding a peace sign, or walking down a country road singing a song. Pete Seeger replied to the reporter, "I suppose not, but I'm going to make darn sure the world isn't going to change me." Pete Seeger said, "It's like this. Imagine a big seesaw. One end is on the ground because it has a basket half full of rocks in it. The other end is high up in the air, has a basket 1/4 full of sand. And some of us got teaspoons, and we're trying to fill it. And of course, most people are kind of scoffing at us. They say, 'Don't you see it's leaking just as quick as you're putting it in? People like you have been trying for centuries, but it's never going to change.' And we say, 'You might be right, but we think we get more people with teaspoons all the time. And one of these days, the whole seesaw is going to go zoop. And people will say, 'Gee, how did that happen so suddenly?' Said us and all our little teaspoons over the centuries." Author and activist Arundhati Roy also does not believe resistance is futile. In her book, War Talk, she said prophetically, "Our strategy should be not only to confront empire, but to lay siege to it, to deprive it of oxygen, to shame it, to mock it, with our art, our music, our literature, our stubbornness, our joy, our brilliance, our sheer relentlessness, and our ability to tell our own stories, stories that are different from the ones we're being brainwashed to believe." She says the corporate revolution will collapse if we refuse to buy what they're selling. their ideas, their version of history, their wars, their weapons, their notion of inevitability. She concludes, remember this, we are many, and they are few. They need us more than we need them. Another world is not only possible, she is on her way. On a quiet day, I can hear her breathing. May we find the courage, the strength, and the imagination to resist the Borg, the corporate empire, the dehumanizing forces, to resist the voices out there or in our heads, saying that our voice doesn't matter, that there's nothing we can do, that resistance is futile. Whether resisting our own personal struggles or larger global forces, there is no one but us, and we don't have to do it alone. May we keep imagining the world we dream of, telling our truths, doing our small part, discovering our gifts, telling our stories, singing our songs, adding our teaspoons to the basket of compassion, justice, peace, and love. Another world is on her way. Let's help her get here soon. So much is depending on it. Amen. And now please rise in body or spirit and join in singing our closing hymn, number 108, My Life Flows On in Endless Song.
My life flows on in endless song, above its lamentation. I hear the real, the far of Him that hails a new creation. Through all the tumult and the strife, I hear music ringing. It sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing? What though the tempest round me roars? I know the truth it liveth. What though the darkness round me glows? Sing as light it giveth. No storm can shake my inmost calm. Unto the rock I'm clinging, since love prevails in heaven and earth. How can I keep from singing? When tyrants tremble as they hear the bells of freedom ringing, when friends rejoice both far and near, how can I keep from singing? To prison cell and dungeon vile, my thoughts to them are winging. When friends by shame are undefiled, how can I keep from singing?
Please be seated. And please join in the unison words as we extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this chalice. And now please imagine us all hand in hand for our benediction. May we tread softly, speak truthfully, love gently, breathe deeply, live wisely, resist imaginatively, and go in peace. Amen. Please enjoy our beautiful postlude.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, they're also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They really say, I love you. I hear babies cry, I watch them grow. They learn much more than I'll ever know, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Logan. All right, our worship service is over, but you're invited to join us in the Welcome Hall for coffee and conversation. There'll be a social justice meeting in case anyone's inspired to stay after at 12 noon here in the sanctuary, and people on Zoom could join a breakout room. Everyone, have a wonderful Sunday. Thanks.